Hi, and welcome to heaven. This is Jacob Elordi and
Jacob Elordi,
and today we are drinking this meloncello.
which is actually very good.
Yeah, it's very sweet and it really tastes like melon.
Yeah, it feels like summer, which is really nice considering there is like 0 degrees outside and wind and misery.
It's really nice being delusional, basically.
Yeah, exactly. We're living the summer vibes.
Yeah, basically it's like a limoncello but made of melons, and it's really nice and sweet.
It's really nice. It's like a candy. I like it.
Me too. So yeah, today we're gonna talk about Priscilla by Sofia Coppola.
Yes, very excited to talk about this film. Although you have to know that our viewing experience was slightly disrupted.
Yeah, our original plan was basically, the two of us go to the cinemas. It released like a week ago.
Yeah.
In the UK, sorry for all our US listeners. It came out
the three of them.
doesn't matter. It came out quite late here in the UK, but we want to make it an event out of it. So we would watch it, we would vlog it, make a whole cool thing, and Julia decided to be sick.
Yeah, I think I got food poisoning. We don't really know what it was, but I was just feeling extremely sick. But I was really brave and I was gonna go. And then I was like, I should eat something before we leave. So I ate half of the banana and then I immediately went to throw it up. Sorry for the explicit vision of this. But then I was like, I don't really think I can go to the cinema. But we still managed to watch it.
Yeah, basically we did it at the distance, like very modern style. I went to the cinema and she stayed at home and watched it in her computer.
Yes.
But before we get into that, how has been your week, Julia?
My week has been alright. It's been a bit weird because it was my first week at work after a very long holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always really bad when this happens.
It's really bad when I get to work when this happens.
It's really hard transition, It's very, it leaves a mark on your mind and your spirit. But yeah, my week was actually very eventful, but I'm not gonna go into too much detail. Yeah, a lot of things happening in my personal life.
Yeah, that'll be exclusive content for just a few. Yeah, I think my week has been alright. It's been very busy too. I am processes of moving from place to place, here to there. But I also don't really like January as a month, to be really honest with you. So it always feels very weird to me to live through, because I'm like in a limbo between the previous year that I'm mentally still in, the new one that doesn't stop for me to catch on,
Yeah, and it's always like really miserable as well. I don't know. For me, the highlight of January is my birthday, which is like in the first week, and then it just goes like really downhill from there. Because I'm on like streak of celebrations, like Christmas, New Year, it's my birthday, and then it's just like reality. Yeah. And I don't love that, to be honest with you. But watching the movie made it a bit better.
True. Even though it wasn't the worst circumstances.
Even though I was super sick. I don't remember when was the last time I feel that bad, but...
Anyway, I think we both really liked it.
Yeah, we really liked the movie. It's a great movie. You should watch it. If you haven't watched it, now is the time to switch off this episode because there is going to be spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to speak with spoilers. We're not going to hold ourselves. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, go watch it. It's amazing. If you don't care, continue on listening to us.
But yeah, the movie was really great. I mean, I feel like it really focuses well on like the female character, and it's not like, I'm really glad that it wasn't like an Elvis biopic, just disguised as like a movie about Priscilla to make it more quirky. Like, it was actually a movie about her and her relationship with him, and I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, I actually watched the Elvis with Austin Butler, just because it was impossible not to compare. Like, the Elvis one came out 2022 and Priscilla's from 2023, and it was just, it just happened, and it's just impossible to not compare. Although Elvis one is alright, Priscilla as a movie to me was so much superior. I think he really tried to do something more with the film itself and the message, because with biopics we're always so used to see like all these remarkable people, and I'm not saying that Priscilla was not remarkable, but she's a more normal person in comparison.
Yeah, and she's also like the person in the shadow, because she's like Elvis's wife.
Yeah,
so it's always like the person in the background, in a sense, like the woman behind him.
Yeah, but it's good because we know so much about Elvis at this point. Like, everybody has heard of him. There's been films about him, but we never get to know Priscilla's side of the story.
True.
And I think that was very good to witness. And I didn't know much about her or about Elvis, to be really honest. I really relate with Jacob Elordi on this one when he was interviewed and he said like he knew Elvis from Lilo and Stitch. Me too. Me too.
Honestly, he is all of us. Like, bless his soul.
Honestly, and I literally, the songs that I know of Elvis Presley are only the songs that were featured in Lilo and Stitch. Like, I'm not kidding.
Great movie, by the way. Honestly, I love Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah. In Priscilla, Lilo and Stitch. Beautiful.
Great combination.
Yeah, but I think everything from the film was very nice. I think some people were disappointed, in quotation marks, with the production, but I actually thought it was amazing. I loved all the settings, the color scheme,
It was great.
the costume design. Everything was very beautiful. I think everyone was kind of expecting a Marie Antoinette,
Yeah.
but Marie Antoinette is
It's a period film.
a period
like,
film. It's completely different.
Obviously, like the times of Marie Antoinette, like they're so much more extravagant in their own way. Obviously, it looks more lavish and more over the top, and like requires a very different set than Priscilla does, which is so much closer to like our times. Obviously, it's going to feel more normal and more mundane to us.
Exactly.
Than that movie, so I don't think like you can't compare that. And honestly, like I was so impressed with like the characterization of Priscilla.
Yeah.
Because I thought when she grows up, I thought it was a different actress.
Yeah, no, she did
But
great.
it's the same actress, and the makeup and the costumes they do the job so well.
No, everything was very perfect. I think because this is really like the growth of Priscilla as a character, it's a reflection of her as a person. That this is what Coppola does best, is like this period of girlhood, depiction of girlhood towards womanhood.
Yeah.
And it starts out with this teenage dream of like, oh, this superstar, which is like the darling of all the teenagers at the time. She gets chosen. It's a literal fanfic.
Yeah.
She gets chosen, but then it turns out to be not a dream anymore. It becomes a adult nightmare. And I thought that was quite brilliant, because with biopics you can get a lot of restraints with someone's life. But I think Coppola was really able to make it into a story with a start and an end.
I mean, they worked on it together, right? Like
Exactly.
She was actually involved in the production of the movie, which I didn't know until like you told me after.
And
we
the other
watched
one did not consult her at all.
Yeah, so obviously it was like Elvis is amazing, and then Priscilla is just the wife that he marries.
Yeah,
Great.
she's just another thing that he achieved.
Yeah,
in a way.
exactly. No, this was really great. And honestly, the way that the movie shows her aging and her actually growing, you can really see like at the start that she's a child.
Yeah.
Which I think is like something we really wanted to dive into, because that's like we talk about that a lot in our like other episode.
True.
Which is like the over sexualization of young girls. And even though this was in a sense consensual, because she did want to be with him and she was in love with him,
is a perfect example of grooming.
From the start you can see how she's being groomed by him. And even the choice of actors, like
no, that was genius.
Like Jacob Elordi being so tall that he is. I actually, fun fact, saw him in person, so I can vouch. He's extremely tall, like extremely tall. And then her being so tiny, and especially in those children's clothes and very preppy style dresses and modest hairstyles.
Yeah, the actress herself is also quite small for average, and he's quite tall for average.
Yeah, so
it was a perfect casting, because it tells a story, but visually, just by looking at them both.
Yeah, the dynamic is established from
right
the
away.
very
Him
start.
with his power at the high, and she with no power at all in the lowest. It makes total sense.
And I also kind of noticed that at the start of the movie, like looking back, there is like way more shots of them like next to each other in like full scale.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see like him being super tall and her being tiny, whereas like when she grows older, there is more like portrait shots of like her and him rather than them like next to each other.
Yeah.
And it kind of also like emphasizes the difference, because when she's adult you can't see that much anymore, because the difference kind of blurs.
Levels up a little bit, because she gets some more sense of herself, and she also grows into a woman. I mean, they met, she was 14 and he was 24. That's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
When they get divorced at the end, she's not even 30 yet, like she's really, really young. And I think the film really made it clear without judging, which is also very good, with no judgment for either of them, to be fair. Like, we look at Elvis and we're like, big yikes, but she actually never judged any of the characters.
It's just like an honest portrayal.
An honest portrayal of it, and I really liked them both. I really liked the portrayal of Priscilla, Kelly Spenny. She was so great, especially because, again, I didn't know much about Priscilla herself, and when I was seeing interviews of her, they speak in the exact same tones. It was so well made, but it's so subtle.
That's amazing.
And another piece of trivia as well. Apparently, the filming of the whole film was made in 30 days.
Yeah, I heard that. That's insane.
And they would not film by order. So when I would see some testimonies of her, the actress, she was saying, "Oh yeah, sometimes in one scene I'm pregnant, and the next scene I haven't finished high school yet." And when we see the film, it's so gradual and
linear, yeah.
Like we see her grow, and it's very well done. But when you actually know how it was filmed, it was like always switching around. And I really have to give props to the actress. Like, she did an amazing job. You don't feel like it was chopped off.
No, it's so good. And you can clearly also, for me, what was really great was that the teenager character is portrayed really well, because as we said, like, she's living this teenage dream in a sense. She's picked by this guy, but she also faces all of the challenges of teenagehood, as every teenage girl does.
Yeah.
So she's trying to like fit in at school, and that's kind of why she forges a relationship with him, because he's the only one who sort of listens to her. And then later on, she tries to like fit in the new school, and she moves to be with him, and she tries to like find herself, and she goes through those like metamorphoses that obviously they are prompted by Elvis, but they also come partially from her as well, because she's also trying to like invent herself. And I don't know, I thought this was like really well done, because even though she has this really bizarre story happening to her, you can clearly see that she's still just a normal teenager, and she still misses her parents, and she's still trying to like reconcile this like new life with still having her family back home. And I don't know, I feel it was like really, really well done in that regard. Yeah,
to me, like, Coppola, based on her memoir called Elvis and Me, I think it was published in the 80s, I cannot remember very well. So it was already after he passed away. It was a few years later of her reflecting back on her times with Elvis. And I think the whole film it's about their relationship specifically, so it's not your traditional biopic. I'm not even sure if I would even call it a biopic, to be fair.
Not really.
To me, it's in that perfect spot. You see her growing in this, she's a teenager, becomes an actual adult, and it's a very pivotal moment in our lives when we are, still discover about ourselves. We're still trying to find out who we are, but I think the film puts this question of, but what happens when everyone decides that for you?
Yeah.
So she is put into this position or role. Like, she just wanted to be with Elvis. Like, she has this very naivety of like, I just want to be with Elvis. Like, I like him. I want to be with him. Like a boyfriend.
Everything is going to be perfect if we are together.
And what he does to her is like create a whole persona out of her to be his wife and later on the mother of the family. It's a position that she's put into by him. It's not exactly what she wanted. There's this one scene that really like touch on that, and again a remembrance of her actual age when she comes back home. He's like in the house like with his friends or whatever, and she tells him that she's pregnant. And then he's like very happy, and she goes like, oh, but I thought, like, I'm scared.
We had more time.
I thought we had more time. And he's like, no, it's gonna be great, blah, 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 we'll do those later. So you can see that she's very young, and she didn't really get the chance to enjoy her life, and she's not really making these big decisions in her life as just portraying the world for someone else.
Great, like, we're gonna have a kid, like, whatever. Or like, when he goes to like do his filming, like his shoots, and he goes away, and she kind of stays in that new house with a family that she doesn't know, with people that she doesn't know, on her own. And he just calls her, and he's like, yeah, you need to be strong, like, this is your role now, you need to be there for me, like, when I call you, that's what you're here to do, that's your job, in a sense. So it's like, I brought you here, but now you have to pay me back. You need to fulfill your duty of my wife, and then in the future my wife.
Yeah, it's not only like her life, but I think it's also a portrayal of the women in that time period. So it starts like late 50s, which is like that very traditional woman stays at home, cook, cleans, blah, blah, blah. And it goes through 60s and 70s when, you know, you become more emancipated. That's why the costume design was also so good, because not only represented the eras, but it also showed slowly her age and her emancipation from Elvis. Apparently, Coppola said to the costume designer, one of the first things when they started working on the film, she said, on the last scenes, I want her to have pants. Like she said, do whatever you want, but on the last scene she has to have pants. And I think it's really this symbol of emancipation. And again, pants were also like a big trend for women wear in the 70s, so it all ties up very well together. That's why I think it was so masterfully made, because it doesn't need to scream loud that we are in the 70s, we are in the 60s. Every single detail is there enough to bring this to life. Which is a huge comparison to like the other film of Elvis, which is like way more out there. And I think he mystifies him way more. Yeah,
it's like Elvis as this like hero, god. Figure, you know, like,
because that's how we always see him. And I think what's so great about Priscilla is that we actually see Elvis not in a bad way. We see him in a human way.
Yeah, just as a boyfriend, as a husband.
Exactly.
And, like,
he was still a great performer.
Yeah.
But he did not treat his wife well. That's just the way it is. And to me, it's more like he is a man of his time more than anything to
That's true. And also you can also see that to a big extent he is like a very compassionate person, because you can see him being like very affectionate like with his friends and with like the staff at his house, for example, or like his grandma, and him like kind of trying to create those like family bonds.
Yeah.
And even with Priscilla, you can kind of see him having like good intentions. He's just like has issues and is like manipulative as fuck.
He definitely had mommy issues. He did. I don't know if you noticed, but when they were meeting for the first time still in Germany, his mother had just passed away recently.
They say
so
it in the
she's
movie.
Literally like replacing his mother.
Yeah, they say it in the movie when he's like, oh yeah, I miss my mama so much, and like you remind me of her.
Yeah, I mean, biggest red flag like right at the beginning.
We know, but you know, did we know when we were 14? No.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's why I also liked it. I saw a lot of comments from other girls watching the film, and they said like, oh, this really reflects very well like my first relationship with like this guy who was much older than me. Like I didn't know that was bad until after, and I think that's a very valid point. And again, that's why I like the film. I didn't judge any of them. Sometimes people like defending her, oh, but he never did anything bad to her, like, you know, properly hurt her. And I'm like,
threw stuff at her. He was clearly abusive.
No, he was very abusive, more psychologically than and verbally than actually physical. But he did slap her once.
Yeah.
And throw a chair.
Yeah.
And if that's not abuse, I don't know what it is.
That's true. Yeah. The fact that some people don't think of that as like abusive behavior is crazy to me.
But again, it's just because they're defending him, like, and I'm like, why do we keep talking about him? Let's talk about her. That's what this film is about.
Like those people in the cinema you told me about.
Oh yeah, no, that was so uncomfortable. So when I went to the cinema, in these scenes, like the scene when he throws a chair at her, or the scenes where she would like unfold the newspaper and she's like him with another affair with another actress, like again and again, in those scenes specifically, I would hear laughs from men in the room.
That's insane to me.
Like imagine that the chair is thrown, she's like distressed, everybody in the film, like the characters are like, what the hell, what the fuck. I am like my heart pounding, and I just hear like a giggle next to me. I had a boy next to me, sit next to me, and just goes like laughing, like, how can you laugh at this?
That's like, that disturbs me so much. The fact that you can smirk at something like that, it just shows how flawed your perception of the world is. It's like, yeah, oh my god, he lost his temper, how silly. And meanwhile, like, all the girls in the room are fucking terrified and are thinking of the times like similar things happened to them, or like that could happen to me. That's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. And when I went to like see online, like people like comments and stuff, I saw including girls, like I saw a lot of people say that they didn't like Priscilla because it paint a bad portrait of Elvis. And I'm like, this is not about him though. And besides, I don't think he paints a bad portrait. I think he paints a human portrait of him.
Exactly. And it's also like, the fact that someone is a good artist doesn't mean they're like an amazing person. It's like, I don't know, I love Karl Lagerfeld as a designer. Also, he was kind of a Nazi.
Yeah, I mean, you should be critical about the things you consume no matter what. Like, you might like someone's work, but you can't deny the bad things he done. Like, he's still human, or she, they're still human. And especially if you go back in time, like, you know, he was a singer from 50s to 70s. You can't expect, like, a perfect human being out of that, especially a man, more to that extent.
That's true.
Right? And also, he's been dead for so long, why do you care so much?
Honestly, it's not like he was your family and you have to defend his honor.
You know, he's not even someone who's like living right now or whatever.
I don't know. People just get so attached to those things. Like, I don't know. I feel like they're projecting their own insecurities. It's like they feel that if you kind of dissect a famous person like that,
yeah,
you will also be able to dissect you, like,
yeah,
a simple person.
Yeah. Apparently, when she was still working on the script, she sent it to Priscilla, obviously, and she was like, yeah, sounds great, let's go. But her daughter, and the daughter of Elvis, Lisa Marie, did not like it and tell her to not make the film at all.
Oh.
Because of how she was portraying her father.
Damn.
But then she died in the beginning of 2023, which is right before the filming start.
Oh.
So, you know, some bad stuff come for good.
Oh my god.
No, but again, like, it's this continuing mystification, glorification of this guy. And I'm like, all right, he's a great artist, but that's about it. He's just human as everybody else, and it's important. And I actually think the film it was actually not that bad. Like, it did not paint him as a villain, per se.
No.
I didn't feel that. Like,
no,
it was like, someone with a lot of issues.
Like, do you like him when you watch the movie? Not really, but, like, you don't despise him.
No, not at all. So, yeah, I thought that was, like, a bit too much, like, reading into it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I would rather have a film like this who properly portrays humans as characters instead of this whole mystification of an artist just because he was very important at the time. Besides that, Elvis has a lot of controversies. Besides his like domestic life and him being a husband with a lot of affairs and abusing her, he's also like known for like stealing black music, and that's what made him famous in the first place. So I'm like,
yeah, honestly.
So I'm like, is this really the worst? I
don't know. No, that's not for us to judge.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there's another thing that I actually want to bring up. So I saw this YouTube video, which was like very nice. It was a video essay by this girl called Broy de Chanel. And she makes very good video essays. So I was very excited because she was also comparing to other women's biopics. Mm. And something that's very true is that not only like Sofia Coppola kind of created this sad girl trope, because the first sad girls like to appear was like in Virgin Suicides, which was from the 90s. Yeah. They have Marie Antoinette, which was like early 2000s. True. And what happened right after that was the sad girl trope appearing on Tumblr.
Yeah, that's true.
Lana Del Rey, you know, and
yeah, like very like nostalgia, sad,
and besides
melancholic.
Yeah, and besides this one, I think Sofia Coppola only made this and Marie Antoinette as biopics.
Yeah.
So I feel like Marie Antoinette really set up that sad girl story because you see this character in history and you actually go see her life like more properly.
Yeah.
And paint her like, oh, she made a lot of bad decisions.
But she was also very human, yeah.
But she was also like just a girl.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I like about that film a lot. But besides all the aesthetics, of course. But I think what she was saying in the film is like, yeah, guys, but remember, she became Queen of France and she was like 15.
Yeah, she didn't ask for it.
And she was like being pressured all the time to have kids. Like, can we judge her that much for the bad decisions? She was just a child. And what this like video essay was talking about was how she kind of set up this sad girl, which made sense for Marie Antoinette, but every biopic of a woman afterwards kind of made a template out of that.
Yeah.
And how when we tell women's stories or feminist women in history stories, they're always through this like suffering and trauma lens, as if like if you haven't suffered, your story is not worth to tell.
Yeah, that's true. It's like if you didn't like had any major bad thing happen to you or like any major bad event, then like it's not worth it unless you're like super successful. It's either that.
Yeah, but even when you're successful, so One of the examples was that biopic of Princess Diana with Kristen Stewart.
Oh,
Remember?
yeah.
Spencer.
Yeah, Spencer.
Like, we know Princess Diana, like, she accomplished a lot of things, done way more for society than any of the royals have ever done.
Yeah, but then you focus about her, like, the failed love life.
Yeah, the film focuses more on that and her like problems with drugs as well. Like, it focuses so much on her suffering, and we see her life just through the suffering, as if she didn't first achieve anything in her life.
Yeah, or like ever be happy.
Yeah, and the other like there's more, but another like extreme, and we absolutely hated was fucking Blonde by that guy called Andrew Dominic, I think.
Oh god, that's such a terrible film.
But that's a perfect example of like the only thing cool or like good to show out of a woman's life is all
her struggles
and trauma and exploitation.
And obviously it was made by men, and like it's so terrible because that movie is another way of exploiting like memory of Marilyn Monroe. And like, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but it's so bad. We watched like 15 minutes and we couldn't go further because it was just so much abuse and like sexuality, but like in a really grim way, and
it's just very disturbing. And like, you could only be a man making it because you don't know how much this would have affects a woman watching. Like, you don't know
and
at
then
all.
It's kind of filmed like this like fever dream as well, which also adds this surreal character to it. And I'm like, these are like very real things that like affect women, and you're making this fantasy out of it. Oh, it's just disgusting.
No, it's very disgusting. We saw that essay in the New Yorker.
Yeah,
New Yorker.
I think so.
I don't know if we find it, maybe we can link it. But it was a very good essay, and it literally said everything we had in our minds. And I think the problem with this sad girl trope, let's say, is it's kind of fetishizes, especially if it's made by a man, it fetishizes women suffering.
Yeah.
And Marilyn Monroe actually achieved a lot in her life, and her life, yes, she was very exploited, but she had a lot of happy moments too, and she's done things with her life. And the fact that everything is framed through that lens is very predatory in the first place.
Yeah, because she's portrayed as
and
just
like
lost
respectful
lamb, like in the industry, and like the film doesn't talk at all about the fact that she was like a philanthropist, you know, and that she achieved so much in her career and was like a person of her time pretty much. And it just
she actually had way more agency than what the movie makes it look like. It's like things just happened to her. No.
She made them happen.
She made those happen. She had way more agency than what it looked like. And it's very awful. And I think what the VOS is saying, which is very true, is that we have these biopics, and there's a new one coming out apparently about Amy Winehouse.
Oh yeah,
and it's going to be the same thing again. It's going to be about her struggles and her drug addiction.
Yeah, that one was like very controversial. I remember people like really arguing against it on the internet a while ago.
Another thing that I found very interesting while looking at all of these women biopics compared to Priscilla. In the video essay, she argues that Priscilla falls into this trope. I see her point, but I actually disagree.
I don't think so, no.
Just because there's a lot of differences. First, all these women actually have tragic ends. So Princess Diana, Marilyn Monroe, even Amy Winehouse coming soon, they all died young.
Yeah, true.
You know, and either with some like drug problem or in a tragic sense. Priscilla is still alive.
Exactly.
Priscilla
she ends her marriage. She actually takes charge and she says stop. Like, she just grows up pretty much. That's what happens. She grows up, she realizes her situation, and she decided to change it pretty much. Yeah. So she's not like that at all. I think like, the film does show her suffering, but it mostly shows it through the lens of like, you thought this was going to be a dream and it turned out to be something completely different, but it's still your life and you can still change it even though someone tells you not to.
Yeah, I actually think this film is different from all those examples, because I do agree those examples really fall into that trope, but I don't think this film does, because again, it's not a traditional biopic and it's really focusing on telling her story with Elvis. It's not telling her life story. It's really just telling about this period of time where she met Elvis that literally changed everything. She went on after she got divorced. She opened her own like business. It was a clothing store. She made she actually was an actress in films. But in a way, everything else that she achieved after was actually thanks to Elvis. And I think she's very honest by not shying that away.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a good relationship, but they were in good terms afterwards. She always let him see their daughter. She was with him. She attended the funerals. She all of this, and then she was the one managing all his estate and his stuff. And if she wasn't for his name, her life would never even be where she is now.
Yeah, she was like
with everything that she wanted to do.
Middle class child.
Yeah.
You know, living with her parents in some like camp in Germany. I mean, like, her prospects for life are very, very different. And it's kind of also shown in the movie when like there is the argument with the parents whether to let her go with Elvis and move in with him.
Yeah.
And you can see that like the parents are really scared because obviously it's like their 14-year-old daughter moving out with this older unknown man who's like a superstar. And in a sense you can see their dilemma where they're like, we want to say no, but on the other hand, like, our child is going to resent us for the rest of her life, and also her life there is going to be much better. It's a completely different life. And I think you can see that when they arrive with the father, when he goes to like take her to Elvis's house, and he enters the house and he's kind of like, wow, like this is your life.
You
now.
see his apprehensions, but also there's a possibility that she could have a better life, but obviously she's very young, so you literally see all of that in it. So yeah, I don't think she really falls into this category, and I actually think she has a lot of agency in the film too, even though she's like a very feminine woman, like very like polite, like speaks slow, quiet, but she actually has a lot of agency. I really like the scene when she's pregnant and he calls her in the office, and then he goes and he says like they want to have a break, like a relationship to like have a break.
Yeah, and she's like, fine, I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah, and it's like she's not taking any shit. It's like, you want me to leave? I'll leave. And right after she's already in the car, he's like, oh no, wait, I was joking, blah, blah, just come back. She starts to understand him more and understand basically all his bullshit.
Yeah, she starts to see like the patterns in his behavior as well, and starts like acting accordingly. So like,
and just taking more advantage out of it as well. So I think after that, and with the child being born, her hair changed. That was the moment that you were like, wait, is this the same person?
A different actress, I swear to God. It was incredible.
But I think that really marked, because I don't know if it was exactly the scene right after, but when the child is born, which is after that scene, she stops having those like big 60s hair.
And she goes back to her like natural color, which he told her to change like to the dark brown, and she starts wearing like patterned clothes, which was like what he told her not to do. So she does start getting some agency. I think the film was very good. I think it had a great pace as well. Like, I was onto it just flew through. The only thing that I would improve is literally towards the end. So I feel we start seeing her getting more agency, more independence, like a life of her own outside of Elvis, and not just being always just Elvis' wife, Elvis blah blah. But we don't see it enough, I think. I would just like to see it slightly more. Yeah, the ending is kind of quick, to be honest. Like, from the time that she gives birth, it kind of just abruptly like ends. And I really like the moment when she like starts to take like classes with that guy.
I would like to see a bit more of that.
And you see her like having dinners with friends and stuff like that, and then kind of, you know, starting to like treat Elvis as just a part of her life and
instead
not her
of
whole life.
And which is something, by the way, which is also something important nowadays. When you're in relationships, and sometimes you just make that new person just your whole self.
That's true.
And it's important to retain your individuality.
I feel like, especially like at the start of like every relationship, when you're in this like honeymoon phase and you just want to be with that person all the time, and you know, you're like not seeing your friends that often, and you
which
just
makes sense because she was a teenager.
Exactly.
It makes total sense.
And then you spend like every breathing second with that person, and you just want to like crawl in their skin, like literally. And I don't know, and then you kind of like start realizing, I need my own life too. Like,
so it's like a sad story, but at the same time, she also learned a lot about life in that 7 or 8 years relationship. She grew within it, and I think she was able to not just be a sad story, kind of like Princess Diana or like Amy Winehouse or Monroe. True. I actually think she was able to not just be a sad story, and that's very powerful. I think, as we were saying, we would like to see more of that side coming up while still with Elvis, because then that scene when he asks her up to the room and he kind of attempts to rape her, it would have felt way stronger, because it's like, oh, I start having a life, then it's not as bad as before. But then that's that moment. It's like he still has power over you. The only way you can actually live all that is like to really end it.
Yeah.
Like you can't have your life with a person like Elvis, basically.
That's true. Yeah, one thing I was also like really surprised about was like their sexual relationship, because I didn't really expect it to be in that way, and also for him to like want to wait with her, and also the fact that they marry quite late. I always thought that like they married like right away, which is not true at all. And I feel like because all other films and discourse around Elvis like brings down Priscilla just to like his wife.
Yeah.
It kind of like gives this impression that they married like 2 weeks after, had kids, done. But it's actually not true.
I think it's really how we end up reducing their relationship to.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we never got to see what actually went on behind doors, quite literally.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, I was just really surprised that like he kind of was the one who like wanted to like wait and make it this like moment. Like obviously it's also like abusive from his side, because then later on he like withhold like sex from her and completely disregards like her desires and her wants and needs in their relationship as a woman. But I just thought it was quite interesting in that way. Oh my god, the moment when he's like starts to read about like philosophy.
Oh, that was so good.
And he's like, oh my god, stop distracting me, like I really need to focus on these thoughts, like if you're not a woman who's going to like share my thoughts and philosophy.
She's like, I hate it.
And she's like, I fucking hate it. And then
I'm tired of these books.
Yeah, and then I think it's kind of implied that she's the one who talks like to his like manager, that it's impacting him in like the wrong way, and then the manager is the one who calls him and tells him to like cut the bullshit with the books, and then he just burns them all. Like,
I can't. That was so good, actually.
It's like, oh my god, you were obsessed, you had your little quirk, you thought you were special, you thought you were so smart.
I know. No, that was pure genius, and a lot of men should like look into themselves, because it's still a very real
it is. We love our philosophers.
Oh my god. Like I even meet them just like by going to a pub, and I just hear them on the side, and I'm like, oh girl, this is probably your first, second date, leave.
Literally, when they start to like mansplain to you like this book that they've read, and it's by Nietzsche.
Oh god.
And they're like, have you ever heard of Nietzsche? And I'm like, yeah, I actually did study philosophy at university.
But then gonna keep on explaining to you.
But then they're like, yeah, but you probably haven't read that, or like, yeah, but did you know? Do you understand? And I'm like, honey, like, it's okay. It's just read your books and leave me alone, you know?
I know. Yeah, even with that thing of like their sex life, there's this common thing where you either see women as whores or you see them as Madonnas.
Yeah.
So it's like either pure, like nothing sexually involved, or you're just a sex object completely. So none of them you have humanity. You're either a saint or a complete whore. And I think that's how he viewed her as well, because he would have his affairs.
Yeah.
And the reports of those actresses that he had affairs with was also very like, yeah, was kind of discarded. So he looked for other women to have his like sexual needs, but then treated Priscilla as this Madonna that nothing can happen to her. Why? Because she's replacing his mother, and his mother is like this godlike woman. Therefore, none of those things, and especially when she became a mother, that's why that scene came about, because he also stopped having sex with her once she gave birth.
Yeah, that's true.
That's when that scene comes.
That's true. It's like he doesn't want to like taint her in any way, in a sense.
Yeah, and it's actually a very big trope / like exploration that happens on film, and to see that on a film about real people, it's so meta to me. How can like someone treat a woman in this like dictomy, you know?
Yeah.
It's actually quite insane. Like I see that a lot in film being explored or criticized or whatever, but when I see
explicitly happen, like
in
a real
that actually happened
to
her, that's in a real event, it's kind of insane, and it really unfortunately sums up how women are treated in society in general. They're either whores or they're Madonnas. You can't just be a normal person, I guess.
Yeah, can't win.
Yeah. Okay, I think we talked most of the things we wanted to talk about.
I think so. Go see the movie if you haven't. It's really great.
Yeah, how would you rate it from 1 to 5 stars?
I don't like 1 to 5. It's really hard. I would give it a 4.
Okay. Like solid.
Solid. It was great. I loved the set design and the costumes and the makeup. It was the characterization was brilliant, and the acting was brilliant as well.
The acting was brilliant.
Also, why does Jacob Elordi always play like mentally unstable, horrible men?
Yeah. That Elvis was giving Nate Jacobs like a lot.
That's true.
That was like Nate Jacobs' like grandfather.
But like we love him anyways. If you're not interested in the story, you just watch it for him being beautiful because it's worth it.
But then you will stay because of the story.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think I give it 4.5.
Yeah.
Stars. I think it's very. Once if I stop like over analyzing it, you just look for what it is, and it is still in fact a great film.
That's true. Oh yeah, and I forgot to say, like, I really like the music as well.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the music. That's
because it's really nice. Like it like blends in Elvis like very smoothly, but also like true to the period of his career that the movie is portraying. So it's not just like smashing out Elvis songs back and forth like movie Elvis.
Yeah, and apparently this is even, I think this is a bit of a tea. It's well known, but it's a bit of a tea of what it is. Basically, they didn't allow Coppola to put Elvis music in it, but they did allow the other one, which kind of says it all. But I think it worked out very well for her because I think she didn't want to use it anyway, but obviously asked, and they denied it. She could not use his music, but I think it worked out much better in her case.
Yeah, it's really good because the music is true to the like period of time, but it doesn't like scream, oh my god, this is a movie with Elvis in it. And I don't know, I feel like that would be too much.
And I really like, although I'm not a huge fan of how it ending, I actually really like the song they put it, the I Will Always Love You.
Yeah.
Because she needed to get out of that relationship, because afterwards she still always liked him.
Yeah.
She will always love him, and she did, and she was still like, yes, this all happened, what he did was not correct, but I did see also the human in him if he like treated himself basically. And I really like how they chose that music to the end, because I think it represents her not as a character anymore, but really as a person, that she always loved Elvis and to her own right, but she was right in leaving. And that quote that she says, it was actually used on the Elvis movie as well, so I think it's quite famous.
Yeah. Where
she says, I'm leaving our marriage. And when she goes, I have to go or I will never leave.
Yeah.
I think that's also very true from people who are in abusive relationships.
That's true. Yeah, you have this like one moment and it's like now or never.
Yeah.
Where you're like, something so bad happens and you're like, this is the time, like I'm feeling it, and if I stay longer they're gonna convince me again that either it's not that bad or I'll be like too scared to go because it's going to go too far.
I think that sentence alone just exemplified how she was in an abusive relationship without saying so, and I think that was like very good. And that sentence was actually also used on the other film. But in that film it makes no sense, because you're like, oh, what's this up with her to like act this way?
What's wrong with her? Why is she suddenly leaving Elvis?
Because she was actually never cared. In a way, they end up complementing each other, because the other one we see his life and how he never paid attention to her at all, and here you see all her psyche and her side of the story while he was away doing his shows.
Sure.
So yeah, I think it's a great film. We could have been talking for more, but I think we will wrap up.
I think so, yeah. Go see the movie again and let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, let us know what you think. How would you rate it from 1 to 5 stars?
Yes.
And I hope you have a great day, evening, night, afternoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.